Hello, and thank you for taking your time to listen to this short talk in the context of the 2024 Auden Conference. My name is Inmaculada Pérez-Casal. I'm currently an assistant lecturer at the University of Vigo, and my research focuses on the analysis of contemporary popular romance from a feminist and gender studies perspective. In this presentation, I will analyze the young adult novel The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo, with the aim of studying the romance genre's potential to advance social change through the questioning and subversion of gender roles. This presentation is divided as follows. Firstly, I will explain what I mean by romance novel, and secondly, I will review what feminist criticism has said about romance fiction. Finally, I will close read Acevedo's novel, trying to locate those areas where the book disputes patriarchal gender ideologies. First of all, my own understanding of romance novel agrees with the definition proposed by the Romantic Novelists Association, which emphasizes the versatility and the widespread presence of love and romance in our culture. The protagonist in The Poet X is Xiomara Batista, a teenage girl who longs to be a poet and puts pen to paper to record the things that happen to her and her feelings about it. That includes, of course, her romance with her classmate, Aman. The novel is narrated solely from Shio's perspective, and so far this is not new, for many romance novels deploy a single first-person narrator technique, like contemporary chick lit novels. What makes The Poet X remarkable is that Shio's diary entries are written as slam poems, and this serves a twofold purpose. Firstly, it demonstrates Shio's creative talent in an innovative way. Rather than just telling readers about her writing aspirations, she provides them with evidence. And secondly, slam poetry evokes a strength and emotion, highlighting Shio's feelings. Unfortunately, I do not have enough time to delve into the novel's formal characteristics, so now I will turn to the criticism levied against romances from a feminist perspective. The first feminist analysis of romance fiction acknowledged the genre's positive aspects, such as the fact that they were an outlet for women away from their husbands and children's demands. Overall, however, these investigations painted a negative image of this type of fiction. Tanya Modleski, for instance, analyzed the protagonists of these romances, mostly young, naive heroines and much older billionaire heroes, and believed that these narratives could inoculate female readers against the evils of patriarchy by naturalizing abusive behaviors like controlling and degrading attitudes on the part of men. Needless to say, the popularity of the romance lies in its adaptability to a shift in social context. In addition to the customary attractiveness and self-confidence, heroes nowadays exhibit more feminine traits. They are less aggressive and intimidating, more caring and respectful. Heroines, in turn, are more masculine. They are far more assertive, with personal and professional goals of their own. Consequently, contemporary feminist approaches to the romance have adopted two main standpoints. On the one hand, there are those who welcome these changes and see romance as a potential ally in the fight for gender equality. For these voices, romance novels are all about sex positivity, as they show women willingly engaging in sexual activity. Romance novels, too, are about women's empowerment and agency. Women are at the center, their concerns are validated, and women are also shown doing things, thus inspiring other women to do the same in the real world. On the other hand, detractors argue that the contemporary romance novel conceals a dangerous post-feminist rhetoric that ultimately works against gender equality. These authors contend that the supposedly liberating messages coded in romance novels masquerade traditional values, portray heterosexuality as the norm, perpetuate gender roles, and emphasize the centrality of love in women's lives. This preoccupation with the representation of women and gender roles seems greater in the case of young adult romance, because YA novels are stories where the female protagonists experience the world for the first time and start forging their identity. My aim today is to investigate in what ways YA romance literature can side with the feminist agenda and help bring about social change. Our protagonist is a 15-year-old girl who experiences the problems of a prototypical teenager. But in this case, the narrative transcends the stereotypical portrayal of adolescence. On top of everything else, Shio must deal with the complexities of Latina subjectivity as informed by the intersection between gender, sexuality, and ethnicity. Due to time constraints, I will focus on the three most important and interconnected elements shaping Shio's identity: her body and sexuality, her family, and her feelings for a man. The novel opens with Shio's reflection about her changing body, which at 15 has all the sexual characteristics of a grown-up woman. She's often the target of lecherous, malicious comments about her body and appearance, like the ones you see on screen. Similarly, her body is a travel hotspot in high school, where, I quote, "the boys who called me a whale in middle school now ask me to send them pictures of myself in a thong," end of quote. If unwanted attention were not enough to make Shio develop a strained relationship with her body, her own Catholic mommy laments Shio's sexual development. Fearing Shio's sexual blooming, Altagracia prohibits any kind of interaction with boys or men, and has even come up with a list of rules for her to follow, which Shio reproduces, as you can see, at different moments in the story. Shio's body is a source of conflict insofar as it draws attention to her, and she must invariably defend herself against people, which she does. At school one day, she had to fight a boy who overstepped her boundaries. "Big body joint," they say. "We know what girls like you want." And I'm disgusted at myself for the slight excitement that shivers up my back, at the same time that I wish my body could fold into the tiniest corner for me to hide in. However, as we can see in this passage, Shio is initially troubled by her own sexual response. Over the course of the novel, she gradually reconciles herself with her body and eventually comes to see it as a source of pleasure, partially thanks to her growing attraction to a man. This budding attraction initially puzzles our protagonist, as in her dreams she fantasizes with kisses and touching, with her taking an active role in the process. In the last 15-year-old poem, she reflects on all these changes she has been going through. "I was hiding in big sweaters, I was hiding in hard silence, trying to turn this body into an invisible equation, until now. Now I want a man to balance my sides, to leave his fingerprints all over me, to show all his work." Shio's self-acceptance is symbolized when she performs her secret poems in front of an audience. Performing means exposure, being seen, but this time it is Shio's choice. At the end of the novel, our protagonist is ready to perform publicly again, which suggests she has made peace with herself and celebrates her body, even if she is still the object of unwarranted attentions. A second issue shaping Shio's identity is her relationship with her family. Xiomara is a second-generation migrant born to Dominican parents. Her mother is extremely pious and wished to become a nun, but her family forced her to marry Shio's father so she could have a better life in the US. In the States, Altagracia works at sweeping and mopping, emptying trash bins and being invisible, and her deeply ingrained Catholic beliefs guide her life. She became an obedient wife, forgiving of her husband's affairs. Shio has a distant relationship with her father and a difficult relationship with her mother. She explains how her birth and that of her twin was considered a miracle, for her parents had lost all hope of having children due to their age. Shio hates this situation because she and her brother are suffocated by their parents' attentions and expectations. Mami's religious beliefs force Shio to participate in Catholic rituals like Mass and confirmation class. Our protagonist's inquisitive mind leads her to question some of the rules and contradictions inherent to Catholicism and resent religion because it creates an artificial distinction between herself and her brother, a distinction based exclusively on sex and gender. In the poem The Routine, Shio expresses her anger at the gendered expectations her mother has for both her children, with Shio being charged with domestic chores simply because she is, I quote, "la niña de la casa." Shio's problematic relationship with her family takes up much of the narrative, and the conflict is never fully resolved. In the end, when Altagracia discovers Shio's relationship with a man and burns Shio's diaries, our protagonist runs away from home. She eventually returns, yet her differences with her family are not completely erased. The family's priest, Shio's teacher, and family friends, like Caridad, must mediate in the conflict. Mami allows Aman to come to their house without acknowledging his status as Shio's boyfriend. In exchange, Shio attends confirmation class. Finally, we come to the subject of romantic love. So far, we have seen how Shio's initial attraction to Aman facilitates her reconciliation with her body and sexuality. Aman also becomes the catalyst for Shio's rebellion against her family when Mami discovers their romance and destroys her poetry. Furthermore, Aman is the one person Shio resorts to when she escapes home. But who exactly is Aman? Aman's characterization does have some of the qualities associated with contemporary romantic heroes, like gentleness or a caring nature, but not quite. Physically speaking, he challenges the ideal hypermasculine body present in many romances. He is slightly shorter and thinner than Shio, and at 15 he still looks childish and rather feminine. More importantly, Aman is also portrayed as a flawed character. He fails to stand up for Shio when a boy at school fondles her without her consent. And at that point, the image she had of a man as a knight in shiny armor is shattered, as our protagonist realizes that nobody will rescue her except herself. This happens during what Pamela Regis has labeled the point of ritual death in romance, the moment when the conflict between the protagonists seems unsurmountable. Aman's perceived betrayal is key to Shio's growth because it teaches her the importance of self-reliance and the fragility of the romantic myth. This situation prompts a process of self-reflection. Shio has time to think about what her relationship with him had been up to that point, a sort of secret rebellion against her family, or rather, a battle she was unwilling to fight. However, the diary crisis brings them together, and as a result of figuring out their feelings, they become stronger as a couple. Shio's poem, In Aman's Arms, explains everything Aman means to her, how he makes her feel. Loved, safe, beautiful. She allows herself to be herself. Their relationship works provided they are honest with themselves, with each other, and that each of them undergoes a process of individual development. In this regard, the novel portrays a different, more balanced romance than the ones we normally encounter. To sum up, The Poet X tells the story of a struggling teenage girl. Besides dealing with academic issues and changing friendships, Shio learns to make peace with her changing body, hypersexualized by strangers and marked as sinful by her Catholic mother. The protagonist's sexual awakening, partially stirred up by her attraction to Aman, results in greater self-esteem and healing. Shio's development simultaneously leads her to resist her mommy's expectations regarding who she should be, a chaste and subservient Catholic daughter. This is a pivotal moment in Shio's development, insofar as her relationship with her family becomes more honest, albeit not idyllic. On top of it all, Shio and Aman's love influences Shio's transformation and rejection of established gender norms, proposing an alternative relational model and a more egalitarian romantic experience. Needless to say, further investigation is needed in relation to the potential of romance novels to contribute to gender equality, but hopefully this presentation has shown that it is possible to subvert the genre's conventions and turn it into a site of resistance against patriarchal gender ideologies. Thank you.